Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time I am playing in the Centurion Action 10, the Tier 10 British medium tank, which used to be back I think in patch 9.11, oh that didn't exist, 9.10 used to be the FV4202, however that was moved to a Tier 8 premium. This vehicle, the Centurion Action 10, became the new Tier 10 British medium tank in patch 9.12, and you know what, I think I've been enjoying this more than playing the old FV4202. Fair enough, the old FV4202 at Tier 10 was low profile, and when it got onto a ridgeline it was formidable. It had a nice combination of great gun handling and accurate gun, and when they buffed it, not a too bad rate of fire. But the Centurion Action 10, I feel with its increased mobility, is light years ahead of what the old FV4202 used to be like at the top of the British medium tank tree. So the Centurion Action 10, it's kind of a funny one when you compare it to all of the other Tier 10 medium tanks in the game that like to use 105mm main armament. There are so many of them when you think about it. We've got the SDB-1, the Leopard, we've got the AMX-30, not the prototype edition, the Tier 10 edition. We've also got, gosh, there must be others in there, M48A1, my most played tank in the game, right? Now the Centurion Action 10 might not have the best rate of fire like the SDB-1, or even it doesn't quite have as good a rate of fire as the M48A1 pattern, but it is significantly better than the Leopard one. Oh, I forgot the E50M, that's also got 105mm, hasn't it? And also the AMX-30. So having that increased DPM without any upgrades, 2,720 DPM with a base rate of fire of 6.98 rounds a minute, pretty much 7 rounds a minute coming from this gun, is really nice. Now, the tank isn't the most accurate like the Germans, which are pretty much 0.3 accuracy, but its 0.32 accuracy is way better than the M48, which is I think at like 0.36, and I think the SDB-1 is around about that kind of region as well. And while the vehicle doesn't have the best aim time like the M48, it certainly has way better aim time than the SDB-1. And it does feel like you do have a little bit of responsiveness in the gun. And you know what, its dispersion values aren't even that bad as well. 0.14 while moving, 0.12 while turning the turret. More stories about why the Centurion Action 10 is not quite the best, not quite the worst. Let's think the AMX-30 and also the Leopard managed to go at 65 kilometers an hour, right? The Centurion Action 10 goes at 53 kilometers an hour, the same speed as the SDB-1, which again is better than the M48 pattern at least. So the Centurion Action 10, it's not the best really at anything, but it's not the worst by a long shot at anything. And so it becomes this nice mix match of a well-rounded Tier 10 medium tank that I think is so much more enjoyable to play than the kind of the ridgeline specialty that was the FV4202. So, one of the best places to play your Centurion Action 10 will be at a mid to long range engagement, and what you see me trying to do here, engaging this AMX-30, trying to find a shot here on the side of the bat chat. From this kind of a position, the Centurion Action 10 is beautiful, shutting down one of the most dangerous tanks and also one of the most dangerous players on the enemy team there with my second round into the Tier 10 French medium tank. So, now that I've kind of poked around with the Centurion Action 10, should we say, for the first 3.5 minutes of the game, playing where I think that this tank is strongest, just continuing to poke at mid to long ranges. It doesn't have the best armor, it doesn't have the worst armor, as long as you can keep your front to your opponents, and hopefully you're using at least 5, preferably 10 degrees of gun depression. The armor on this tank is rather decent, until we get slapped in the side by a sneaky German Tier 9 tank destroyer. The WT Panzer IV certainly stops me from advancing and trying to put pressure on the Centurion 7-1 and also the Centurion Action 10. Now in this situation, I see a Centurion Action 10 who is a one-shot. I see a Centurion 7-1 who is fair enough on all of his hit points. I'm going to try and put some rounds into this Tier 9 American self-propelled gun. And so I'm already thinking, are these guys going to be able to handle these two tanks with the support of a WT Panzer IV? And do I have time to fall back and go to the east after I hopefully kill this Tier 9 American self-propelled gun? Will the M5355 die? Yes, it will. Right in the middle of the tank. That is a very important vehicle to take out. And so, I make a decision. Obviously, the East is completely and utterly lost right now with all of those, the heavy tank advantage they have over there. Right now, it's neck and neck. There are 6 kills apiece, 9 remaining tanks on either side. And I thought that my medium tanks, surely they're going to be able to hold this situation, right? With the Object 140 making his way up until the nice defensive location up there. The T-54 very healthy as well. And so I'm going to use the increased mobility of the Centurion Action 10 over the FV4202 to traverse the battlefield and hopefully get into a better position. But oh wait, that Object 140, who was pretty darn healthy, has just been eradicated by the Centurion Action 10. And unfortunately, it's going to be even worse news as the Skoda T50 and the T54 are not long left for this world. Now I'm going to be loading some heat rounds now. The 268mm of penetration on your APCR rounds are beautiful, but when you have to deal with tanks such as an E100 and a Type 4 Heavy, you've got to use the right tool for the job, if I guess you have the credits to do so. And fortunately for me, I don't need any more tanks in water tanks, and so I've got some credits to burn. So we're going to be firing heat rounds at long range, which will not lose any penetration, and also have 330mm of penetration to be able to engage these tier 10 heavies. We put the first one, oh god, we missed the lower plate of the 113, but luckily we don't get spotted. Hopefully we can take out this Type 4 Heavy. It's a 50-50. Well, apparently it's not a 50-50 because we failed to penetrate him as well. The E50M finishing him off, and I bounce another round, hoping to hit the side of the E100's turret here, thinking shall I go for the lower plate? And the E50M has put in 2 rounds on the trot. And I don't think I missed a shell this game apart from one at the artillery piece while I was firing my APCR rounds, and we only managed to penetrate 1 out of 5 of those heat rounds. But then again, I was taking very chancy shots at long range, and I guess a little bit of RNG coming in the .32 accuracy. So I made I don't know if it was a bad decision or a good decision to leave my friends over on the northwest flank. Well, in retrospect now, I guess I should have been helping them out a little bit more, but I really thought that they would be able to handle it. And I thought that the risk was these heavy tanks plowing into base. I thought they were going to be able to cut through the artillery in the E50M a lot faster. But luckily, some long range, I think we just saw that the E100 took some splash damage there from a self-propelled gun on my team, which should help me out. So the 113 is going to make an aggressive advance. He is still rather healthy indeed, although he lost 400 hit points there. We put 1 into his side, we track him, and now we're going to be going back to the APCR rounds as I feel fairly comfortable hitting the lower plate. Although I don't. I actually seem to aim for the tracks there. I'm not sure if I was meaning to aim for the tracks, but the result is good anyway. The 113 dies with the T92 taking away his remaining, I think, 600 odd hit points. Great result, some nice tracking there for us. And so right now, the WTF Panzer IV managed to kill the artillery, which likely means that he's sitting in this kind of a direction. I would be very surprised if the Centurion 7-1 were not advancing along this ridgeline as well, or alternatively they might be behind the 100 trying to support him. So I fire a heat round into the tracks, and remember, tracks absorb high explosive anti-tank rounds very easily. If I'd been firing APCR there, I would have most likely damaged the E100 as well as track him. And then I reload an APCR round, hoping that I'm going to be able to shoot it up into his lower plate, and in fact I would have needed the heat round to be able to contest his turret at that kind of an angle. What a disaster. Not very good use of ammunition here. Never quite loading the right tool for the job, but I didn't think that E100 would still have his repair kit this late in the game. So the GW Tiger P hits me, and I figure out that he must be located over in this location. We're going to have to remember that he's no longer sitting up here. He's not up here. He's making his way down south. We go up, we put a round into the turret of the E100. Unfortunately, our E50M has been taken out, and I want to try and drive in this location to make the enemies think that I'm going to be going off to maybe try and flank the artillery. And then as soon as I think that I'm no longer spotted, I'm going to turn around and hopefully defend the T92 against the onslaught from the Tier 9 German lightly armored tank destroyer. Will we spot him out in the open? Yes, we will. Will he spot us at this kind of a distance? He's very far away from us, 373 meters. He must be using coated optics on that tank to be able to spot us there, or at least have a very skilled crew. We put an AP round into him, locking his tracks down, and then we load our first Hesh round of the game. Oh, I load my first Hesh round of the game, huh? But that one does 516. The Hesh rounds on this tank, one of the strengths of the Centurion Action 10. 105mm of penetration and 480 alpha damage. And so rolling for 516 there certainly was fortunate because it allowed me to finish him off and get moving and avoid the artillery shells, but it wasn't that crazy of a high roll. And, you know, doing 500 odd damage with these Hesh rounds really isn't that unusual, especially with vehicles such as the Conqueror. I just love having these hash rounds on these high-tier American tanks. Sorry, American? What? These high-tier British tanks. It certainly was one of my favorite features of them. And it makes you feel like you're selecting what kind of ammunition you need for the job. You know, the right tool. And if you can manage to use the right tools, then it does give you a certain advantage over the other tanks. I did not expect to get spotted there. Wow, what does that mean? That likely means there's either somebody on this ridge, or there's somebody probably poking around this ridge here with very good view range. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep wiggling until I'm no longer spotted, and then I decide, alright, the enemies think that I'm just going to camp here and wait for them to come in. Now, there's no chance I'm going to be able to win this game by just sitting there, because the medium tanks won't really attack until probably a couple minutes left on the game, and then I'm never going to be able to find 2 self-propelled guns. And so I decide to make a play that I don't think the enemies are going to expect me to do, and that is to now push aggressively out the east, then towards the north, to try and start removing the enemy's self-propelled guns from the enemy team. And if we can do that, we actually have a chance to win, right? With only 4 minutes left on the game, if I just hang around here, sure, I might be able to get a draw, sure, I might be able to pick up a couple of kills, but we're not going to win unless, for some reason, the enemies decide to all become idiots and just drive at me, and the self-propelled guns aren't likely to do that, especially as they're in a platoon together and likely to coordinate. So have a quick check of that corner. I'm really looking for the Lorraine 15551 right now, who was last spotted there, and I thought maybe he'll sit there, but of course he hasn't. My next idea is that he might be up in towards the A1 location. And remember, because I used the aiming, or the hit identifier earlier on, I know pretty much exactly where the GW Tiger P will be. Unless he's relocated, he's last hit me here, and he's probably made his way along this flank. Now I reload a Hesh round. Why am I doing that? Because 390 health on that enemy tank, it will be a 50-50 whether I kill him with my APCR round. And what's the artillery going to do if I hit him with an APCR round? Well, he's most likely going to either go forwards or backwards. That's another risk for me, because if he goes over the ridgeline, I might not be able to catch him, and that's another tank I have to deal with. By loading a Hesh round on this gun, 480 alpha damage with 105mm of penetration, I pretty much secure that I'm going to kill him with a single shot, and I don't even get spotted. But of course, with a self-propelled gun dying on the enemy team, they now know that I'm hunting them, and so the Centurion 7-1 makes a play, no longer worried about me sniping him from this location, and takes out the T92. And oh god, the Centurion Action 10 slams in a heat round into me. I quickly duck down the ridge and hopefully try and progress some vision out here. I want to try and get spotting right now. There's the GW Tiger P. He takes a swing at me, and he actually detracks me and also kills my driver. I repair my driver, or I patch up my driver and hopefully finish him off. Yes, I do. Okay, now I know that I'm after the Centurion Action 10. And right now I'm not too confident about how many hit points they have left, but I can't really worry about that. Both of the tanks on the enemy team have the same gun as me. The 105mm with 268mm of penetration, which would be more than enough to go through any part of my armor, really, unless I'm using my gun depression. I pop up over the ridge, and he wasn't using any gun depression, and the top of the Centurion Action 10's turret is rather weak if you manage to shoot either straight at it or down at it. The Centurion 7-1 misses us, and we don't miss him, and now we've turned a 1 versus 3 situation, where the enemies had, well, the Centurion 7-1 was a 2-shot and the Tiger P was a 2-shot, into a 1 versus 1 where each player is on a 1-shot. This is rather exciting. Now 5,561 damage, 1.5 minutes left on the game, and 7 kills. Will we be able to pick up our Radley Walters medal? Is it going to be a heartbreak? We're going to have to find out. We spot the Centurion 7-1. He spots me, and right now what I want to do is I want to make sure I'm always trying to use as much of my gun depression as I can. He fires a shot at me, he misses my tank, and he ducks down the ridge. Now I have the positional advantage over him. I'm above him. It's harder for him to shoot up at me, and I can hit the whole of the top of his turret and manage to take him out. If I can try and keep him here and bait him here, I should have the positional advantage and be able to slam one into the top of his turret. It's neck and neck stuff. My heart rate was pulsing. Will we find the shot? 49 seconds left on the game. There it is, right into the top of the Centurion 7-1 turret, securing the Radley Walters medal and just shy of 6,000 damage done. So a cracking result here for one of my favorite mid to long range sniping medium tanks, the Centurion Action 10. I really feel it's in a great place since it was changed from the FV4202 in patch 9.12. And it was also nice to prove a few angry players on my team who didn't like me falling back wrong. So this was an ace tanker for the tier 10 British medium tanker, Radley Walters for the 8 kills we picked up, a Pascucci's medal for killing 3 self-propelled guns on the enemy team, and a high caliber medal for the 6,343 damage that we dealt, as well as 2,500 damage upon detecting. And I'd like to give a big shout out to the 2 self-propelled guns on my team, Killer Shot 001 and 71 Mechbat, as well as the E50M Duriel 133 for our 4 versus many takedown at the end of that game. It certainly was a pleasure to play with you guys, and it looks like we had a pretty positive impact for the team. And so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider giving it a like. It really helps the channel out. And also, as it's Sunday and due to your amazing feedback, I'm going to be doing another tech tree focus tonight on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. So if you're watching this on release day on Sunday, you can come along and see me play the entirety of the Soviet heavy tank line leading up to the IS-4. And a big thank you to Laffy Labriel for voting for the IS-4 and the 51 people who agreed with him. And if you haven't seen one of my tech tree showcases before, it's basically like a mini tank review all the way up, culminating with this week's IS-4. And so as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.